Without the hype and the context of the moment, how does Infinity War and Endgame hold up today? That was a question that I've been asking myself for a while now, to be honest. So, about 2 years ago, I rewatched many MCU films, including Infinity War, but I did not watch Endgame. Just a couple days ago, I rewatched Endgame for the first time since the theater. Granted, I think I saw Endgame like 4 times in theaters, but it has been very long, and every time I come across it on social media or on YouTube, I just ignore all Endgame clips because I really wanted to distance myself from it, and I really wanted my next viewing experience to feel like the first time as much as I can. And I have thoughts because I really do feel that Infinity War is a timeless film and Endgame is a historical film. It's a cultural moment. And I do think it's flawed. And I do think Infinity War is borderline a perfect film. I would say maybe a perfect film with some nitpicks. So let's get into it. Just for context of who you're dealing with, I am not a superhero channel, but I am a big nerd. I am a big geek, and I have been an MCU fan since the very beginning. I was, I believe, 8 years old, 9 years old when Iron Man came out, and I was 19 and 20 when Infinity War and Endgame came out. I literally grew up with these films. I grew up in like the golden age of the superhero era with the Dark Knight, Toby Spider-Man, the X-Men films, Ghost Rider, all that good stuff. These films were very formative for me, and I may not be a comic book expert, but like when it comes to the MCU, it's like I know what I'm talking about. I was there, as they say. I was there when the old texts were written, you know? And these films mean a lot to me, you know, they really do, and they were a big deal for me in high school. And definitely a lot of nostalgia watching these films, but also I'm an adult. I'm much more serious about my love for art, my love for storytelling, my love for cinema. And I did watch these films with a fresh set of eyes. And I tried to be as objective as possible, but also be fair and look at the film in the context of then and now. I'm going to talk about these films kind of at the same time to reference each other. So, a major difference they have is I believe Infinity War is very balanced, as all things should be, and I think Endgame is not balanced. So what I mean by that is Infinity War is paced very well. I think it's also not too long. It's like 2 hours and 30 minutes or something. And to me, the pacing is perfect. The humor is perfect. Some of the best humor is in this film. The action sequences are amazing. The stuff with Doctor Strange versus Thanos, amazing. Thanos using the gauntlet to pull a freaking moon, amazing, iconic. I think it's just, it hits you, you know, it really does feel like you're fighting a godlike being, you know? And then the exposition, the character stuff, all the stuff we learn about Thanos, because in a very real sense, this is the first time we see Thanos, even though we see him in other films, but we don't know him, you know? So the Russos had to do a lot of explanation, a lot of exposition in this film about Thanos, and I think they do it flawlessly. I think we completely understand Thanos, and he is amazing. He is epic. He is the modern day Darth Vader, which is almost an impossible feat to accomplish. You know, I mean, Darth Vader is Darth freaking Vader. And in one film, just like Star Wars, in one film, they established this beast of a villain, and his aura is unmatched. And well, until Doctor Doom, his aura is unmatched. The music they use for him is amazing. The MCU has suffered from lackluster scores, and like the score in this film and the score in Endgame is pretty damn good, and I really applaud them for that, for stepping it up for the ending, you know? And then, as I said, the character stuff. I've said this in other videos before, but that is what makes the MCU so good. The characters, watching them grow all this time. And I feel like so many moments in Infinity War, even though it's such a crazy big action adventure film, there is so much silence in this film. There are so many moments where a character is thinking or a character is looking at another character without saying anything, and it's just subtext, and I love it. And I love how Steve Rogers is so broken in these two films. It is so clear to me this time around how Steve is very depressed, very broken. He has been through it. His entire belief system, his worldview has been challenged again and again and again ever since he came out of the ice. And you could see it, that it's really taking a toll on him in this film, in both of these films. But he's still a strong leader. He's a strong superhero. He's truly admirable, you know? And even though we see that he is different, he keeps going, and there is so much silence with him, I feel. So many just sombering looks that I believe the subtext says it all because we've grown with him so much. And something that Robert Meyer Burnett has said, the YouTuber and filmmaker, something that he has said that I completely agree with was that he likens the MCU to a TV show. And every single film, every single Disney Plus project and whatnot has been an episode. And Infinity War and Endgame was the series finale. And that's what it feels like. It feels like if you've been watching since the beginning, dude, you are so invested. We know these characters so well, and that's what makes these films so compelling. That's what makes these films so emotional, you know? If you have only seen like 5 MCU films, even if you've only seen 10 MCU films, there's a disconnection, you know? But when you've seen them all, when you've been there, it's like you know these guys. And yeah, I'm just rambling now. What I will say as a major nitpick I have for Infinity War is Hulk. I hate what the Russos did to Hulk, and it just doesn't make sense to me. Like, it feels like even if Hulk got a little scared, Hulk to me would still rage out. He would be like an animal caught in a trap. He would just go rabid and go crazy and still prevail somehow. Even if Thanos is stronger, like, I don't like the way Hulk went out. And I hate it. And what pisses me off is that in Endgame, we just get a line, the 5-year journey that Hulk went on. And the explanation is a good one. It's an emotional journey. It's a character-driven, psychological journey. But we don't see it. We just get it. Like, oh, he's Professor Hulk now. And it just, I get it, you know, the rights of Universal and whatnot. But I just feel like, man, if you're going to tell that story, tell the story. And show us that possibly beautiful, cathartic journey that Bruce Banner would have went on, incorporating his 2 personalities and coming to a form of self-acceptance. That could have been a powerful story. And instead we just get it in a humorous diner sequence. Which brings me to Endgame. I think the movie is very unbalanced, as I said earlier, and I think that the movie's 3 hours long, and while being very long, it feels fast-paced. So we're just moving, boom, 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 tons of information, ton of exposition. But at the same time, the humor, to me, makes it unbalanced. I feel like the humor does not land always like in Infinity War. I feel like it's a quiet moment, it's a slightly serious moment, and then let's add in a joke. And it almost feels, not almost, it does feel very predictable in Endgame, where I'm like, oh, silent moment, boom, joke, there it is. And I don't like that. There's so much plot, which I can't fault the film for that. I mean, they're telling a big story. And this is where the historical aspect comes in, because at the end of the day, I do think Endgame pulls it off, and it is a historical moment, and I do think it's a good film. But it's because they were just doing something that was never been done before. A story this big, this many characters, this much crazy plot, and you gotta look at Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings films, and you kind of understand why he left out so much from the source material of Tolkien, because he knew, like, if you add in if you explain too much, it starts to feel like, wait, what am I learning? Wait, what does this mean again? And I feel like Endgame starts to feel that way a little bit, where you just feel like you're just overstimulated with information. But like, again, I get it, you know, like I like knowing all this information as a nerd, you know, I like knowing all the time travel information and thinking about the way time works and timelines and the branches and all that good stuff, you know? So I get it, but I could see how it makes the film feel almost soulless sometimes because of all the information. But this film carries on the character stories. It carries on that journey. And that's why at the end of the day, Endgame works to me, because the character journeys are paid off. The character journeys make perfect sense. They're emotional, and they also are the focus of the story. You know, the focus isn't just time travel. It isn't just killing Thanos. It's very cathartic, to me at least. And one thing I do want to say about plot holes, because many people talking about Endgame over the past 6 years or so, people always bring up plot holes. And honestly, I don't think there's that many plot holes. I do think there are questions left unanswered. And that's the fault of the multiverse saga. The multiverse saga dropped the ball with explaining things. But I don't think that's the fault of Endgame. So I really do think that most of the plot holes in Endgame will be addressed in Doomsday. But there's one major plot hole that does bother me, and I don't think will ever be explained. It's just a plot hole. And that's Nebula and the Soul Stone. Nebula knows how the Soul Stone works. At least she has an idea. And they don't explain that, but through visual storytelling, us, the audience, can infer that in Infinity War. When Thanos comes to confront the Guardians, Iron Man, Doctor Strange, and Spider-Man, in that fight sequence, you see the camera goes on Nebula and you see her reaction, and she even says something like, Thanos went to Vormir and came back with the Soul Stone and without Gamora. Like 1+1 = 2, you know? And in Endgame, she's a part of the team. She even has her own little presentation, I believe, of what she knows about the stones and whatnot. And she never imparted this knowledge because Clint and Natasha seemed surprised. They seemed like, wait, what does this mean? No, there's no way this could be true. And I'm like, did Nebula not say it? Now, there is a scenario where I do think it makes sense that Nebula doesn't say it. You know, like she has no connection to these guys. At the end of the day, she just cares about killing Thanos. But the problem is that it's not addressed. That does need to be addressed at least a little bit. And I'm not saying that everything needs to be spoon-fed to us, but you know what I mean? If you don't at least address it, then it does feel like a plot hole. It does feel like they just forgot about it. So that's my little complaint on that. But my one major complaint of both of these films is the CGI. And I mean, we all know this. I'm not saying anything novel, you know, but the CGI, the lighting, the composition, it just sucks in these two films. I don't know what happened, but the MCU went severely downhill in, I believe, Infinity War, maybe Civil War as well. But the CGI just went real bad, man. And it looks like they're fixing that. Thunderbolts looked really good, and Fantastic Four looked really good. So I can't wait to see how Doomsday looks. But yeah, it just looks really bad, especially Endgame, especially the last battle sequence. As amazing as it is, as epic as it is, the Russos did not know how to handle the darkness. And I mean, I love Zack Snyder, and I think Zack Snyder knows how to handle darkness, which makes sense. The guy's background comes from art or comes from painting or something, so he knows visual storytelling. He knows how to compose a shot. And the Russos, they don't know how to handle this darkness, so it ends up looking like just a gross kind of palette. Like it's like black, brown, and like random rainbow colors. It just is like, what am I looking at? Like it doesn't look good to me. In theory, I like that it's a dark battle because it is a very grim moment in the story, but ultimately it doesn't look good to me. But yeah, I know I talked a lot of crap on Endgame, but like I said, I do think they pulled it off. That's why the movie made a freaking $1 billion. That's why most of us cried during Endgame, and it wasn't just nostalgia. Like I really do think they pulled it off at the end of the day. They brought all these things together. They brought all these characters together, all this story together, and it was a satisfying ending. It really was. Even though I do think they focused a little too much on setting up things, like they're setting up the new Captain America. They're setting up all these female characters, which obviously did not work well for them. But they're setting up all these female characters. They're setting up the Loki show, which was okay. That didn't fall flat. But you know, I feel like Endgame was trying to do a lot, and that's what made it feel so overwhelming. But at the end of the day, it's historic. It's a historical movie, and to me, Infinity War holds up absolutely. And yeah, those are my thoughts. I can't wait for Doomsday. If this video performs well, I'll probably cover Doomsday a good amount, because even though that my channel is not a superhero channel, superheroes are a big part of me, and I would like to cover it when I feel compelled to, but I also understand if my audience doesn't care for that, you know? We'll see next week after I watch Avatar, that Doomsday trailer, and what we get. And let me know your thoughts on Infinity War, on Endgame, your thoughts on the MCU, your thoughts on Phase 4, Phase 5, all of it. I'd love to know just people's thoughts. And thanks for watching.